Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untapped podcast.
Your weekly look at what's happening in the Untapped community and the world of beer.
This episode is brought to you by Untapped and the Untapped merch store. Check out store.untapped.com and use the coupon code podcast for 20% off anything you order.
I'm Harrison. Double trouble. Perhaps a 2-for-1 or a buy one, get one free. No, John got both these beers for us today. Perhaps double bubbles. That works. So what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to kind of work out here with you guys is what to kind of call this episode and the next one. We're actually drinking 2 beers today, this week and next week, which we're excited about on the cast. We're starting across the pond today with a brewery hailing from Wokingham, England, or Wokingham, England, maybe. Once famous for its bell making and silk mills, now craft beer fans are being drawn to this town outside of London by the intoxicating beers that this brewery about to enjoy pumps out. They're almost too good to resist, as the brewery's name clearly suggests. But enough foreshadowing and playing with words. John, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, so, yeah, as you alluded to, many ways, Harrison, bravo. Harry and I are we're each drinking a different beer.
Correct.
But both of these from Siren, both of them an American IPA, and both of them 7.3% ABV. The one I'm cracking open is from Siren called Be Even More Pacific.
Love it.
It's an experimentation they're doing as a California IPA. Crisp, refreshing on the palate. This particular beer, they used Nelson Sauvin hops or Sauvin hops. It's a New Zealand hop, which is a derivative of, has something to do with Sauvignon wine. And there's certainly a grape flavor that comes from that hop. I'm excited to taste this. In addition, there's also Citra, Simcoe, and Hallertau Blanc, which I think Harry would agree is another grapey hop.
That's
so
right.
I'm really excited to try this one.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And so to kind of go alongside that, I'm having Neo Normal, also, as John mentioned, from Siren Craft Brew IPA. Again, 7.3% ABV. This one, however, so some similarities there. The difference is we'll find out actually if it's more than just this, but from the description, you can tell right away it's kind of all about the hops. Neo Normal features Talus hops from Yakima Chief Hops out in the Pacific Northwest. This is, as far as we can tell, one of the first really commercially available beers to use this new hop. It comes from their hop breeding program, and it's brand new as of 2020. So according to Siren and Yakima Chief, we did a little bit of research on this hop, Talus hop, kind of brings a lot of pink grapefruit, tropical fruit aromas, pine, also some sage, which is kind of cool, has been picked up. So this is a West Coast IPA designed to showcase this brand new Talus hop. So I'm pumped for many reasons, bringing Siren period, but then also brand new hop. I mean, what's not to love there? So let's dive in. Let's enjoy these things.
Yeah, super. I mean, one of the first things I noticed when I got these cans, the cans themselves are matte black.
Yeah.
They've got beautiful artwork on them. We ordered these from an online store called Beer Nuts, based out of London, close to London, based out of England. And they will ship their UK craft beer over here to the US. So I was more than excited to jump on and try that. I got this box of these beautiful black Siren cans. I've never seen any can like this over here in the States.
Likewise, yeah.
And okay, so to the beer, as if my foreshadowing wasn't enough, it's grapey, right? The color on this particular one, it's dark and there's a little bit of haze thrown off in there, but the flavor, I won't claim to be able to identify this as winey flavored, but there is. If you have a really dry Sauvignon Blanc and you get that grassy white grape, I can taste that in this beer just from the hops. And it's, 7.3, light, clean, crisp, refreshing, all those things you look for in a West Coast. This is great, man. How's yours taste?
Yeah, so this is really cool. So mine it looks a little bit more straw colored than yours. Big fluffy old head. And yeah, again, Talus hops. So what's the deal with these guys? Nose is grapefruit. It's very similar to like the nose of like something that's been dry hopped with Cascade. It's kind of like a dank grapefruity, thinking like a dirt grapefruit, which I love. It's very smooth. There's definitely, I mean, the bitterness is noticeable. This is a West Coast style IPA, and I would definitely say it checks those boxes. And if you want to kind of learn more about American style IPAs, we cover that in episode 23 of the Stovepipes episode when we drink Stones IPA, one of the original IPAs out there, American IPAs. So dive in there for more detailed breakdown of this style. But suffice to say, checks all the marks, but really it's like I get tons of grapefruit initially. I'm going to look forward to this thing warming up a bit. And then almost like grapefruit and then like grape, but it's not, it's more of a red grape than like a white wine grape, I guess. It's more rounded, perhaps. That makes sense. It's not kind of as sharp as white wine grapes can be to me, and aggressive. It's like very smooth and kind of grapefruit to just grape so far, which is cool. Again, you don't expect brand new hop, but I can see this working well in not just IPAs, but in all kinds of things. Saisons come to mind, something wild like that. Hop forward Saison. But I love the body of this beer too. It's great. Just similar to kind of what you were saying. It's very crisp. Yeah, it's got a great mouthfeel. It looks awesome. I'm trying, my brain's hunting for like, all right, where's the water's different? Like so much of this can be different than an American IPA. Where is the difference showing up? And I don't know if I can really like grab a single thing, which is kind of cool that it's, you can brew West Coast IPA anywhere. This is awesome.
It's always, I'll be the first to admit, it's so much easier when we're tasting the same beer.
Sure.
Because you might, like I might be in the middle of my first sip and
right.
you'll tell me that the aroma reminds you of what,
exactly.
whatever, like grapefruit pith. And then
right.
all of a sudden that
Boom.
exists in the beer for me.
Right.
I don't know, for you guys listening at home, when you're drinking a beer by yourself, how do you pull out those, like tiny little like this tastes like a West Coast IPA.
Yeah.
On the surface, and then diving in, sometimes I have to use my nose to find those little things.
Sure.
Grape hits me right on the face, and it tastes like, like not abashedly, it tastes like a beer that I would expect Dogfish Head to make. Nice. Because I think their Noble Rot that was like the grapiest beer I've ever had until this one.
Right. There you go. That's awesome that it's that grape forward, and that is what Nelson Sauvin hops are known for. And Hellertal Blanc. So if they're finishing the beer with that and like relying heavily on the Nelson Sauvin through the boil, you'd think, white wine kind of flavors would lead to that whole thing. But then that kind of what is now almost a classic combo of Citra and Simcoe in there as well could throw some dankness your way. Is that happening, John? Do you get any dankness dancing around, or is the grape white wine kind of flavors really dominating?
No, I would say normally I can pick up on that like dank resinous flavor. My wife loves it in a beer, and usually we're very different. Like I can taste a beer and I'll know immediately, ooh, this one's for you.
Right, sure.
It's not, like I'm not against it, but it's not what I'm seeking, and I don't get much of that dank. It's juicy.
Nice.
This is. I mean, if you didn't. Like so many beers, right? But if I didn't know, I would just pick this up and assume, some brewery near me made it. It doesn't taste like it's from the UK. That's probably ignorant as hell to say.
But you're right. I mean, history is something that's, hard to ignore. I mean, in a country that's made its name for itself on balanced kind of bitter beers and dark milds and things like that, it's when you almost expect that, a more balanced approach to any beer, and then something hits you right on the palate like this is doing for me right now, and it sounds the same for you with like hops, and you're immediately like kind of wondering what local brewery or what crazy West Coast brewery concocted this thing, and that's just where your mind's going to associate. So it's cool to knowing that we know it's from from Siren. Like again, what does that mean when you taste it? Is there something that you can pull from that an American brewery, a flavor or a part of this experience that just you don't find here? It's again, so far, I mean, maybe it's like, again, the body is kind of what's jumping out to me, and maybe that has to do with the water profile. But I mean, I might just be kind of projecting that because that's what I was thinking I'd find, a little biased and hope a confirmation bias happening, hoping that's what it would be. So I'd just be imagining that. But suffice it to say, it's delicious, and I would drink a lot of it. And I'm, jealous once again that an awesome small town in the world somewhere has a brewery like this that I can just walk up to and grab this beer and enjoy it.
Yeah, and these guys are, I mean, they've been around for 7 years. Originally launched in 2013. They've been awarded from Camera, which is I think the largest single interest lobbying group in the entirety of the United Kingdom. Wow. They're no joke. Like they're an incredibly talented and successful brewery / business.
Love it.
And I'm also quite in love with their branding. I've been trying to order a T-shirt from them for about 4 years. One day maybe.
That's great.
So these are both American IPA styles. Yeah. Can I say without getting much backlash, Harrison, that the IPA itself is pretty much invented in England?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. We covered this on, an episode long ago. But sure, yeah, the India Pale Ale, right? We probably everyone's heard this story from some guy in a bar probably or whatever, a cool history teacher maybe, that, hops are a preservative and simply put that, used to keep the best bitters and that breweries were punching out, producing in the 1800s from spoiling on the long trip to India. I mean, absolutely invented there. And again, it was kind of the necessity of invention, something like that. There's something.
Necessity is the mother of hops.
That's what it is. Perfect. Yeah. That's a beer. That's a good beer name. A good band name. But anyway, again, it was kind of necessary, and then to make the beer, just drinkable. And lo and behold, it in the process created this style that is now the most checked-in style and untapped in American IPA is. So, but definitely started in England. And if you're wondering, okay, English IPA, American IPA, well, what's the difference? We will drink an English IPA someday on this podcast and talk about it more then. But once again, overall, it's the balance. This beer, American IPA, is hop forward, distinctly bitter and hoppy, clean fermentation profile, and English style IPA can be more balanced, where the malt and the hops are also, it's not leaning one way or the other. So love to drink them. There's a great one that Yards Brewing out of Philadelphia makes, just called their IPA, and it's their flagship IPA. It's an English style, and it's delicious. But anyway, plenty of great ones out there. But yeah, for today, drinking an American IPA brewed in the UK, and it's both of them, and we're digging it.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I've seen more. This is probably just me not trying very hard, but if I want to find an English style IPA, I need to find it made by a local brewer. Sure. Okay, so that just means it's difficult to get English beer over here, and that makes sense because there's a whole ocean you have to cross.
Yes.
But when I discovered Beer Nuts and the fact that they would ship, obviously in the UK, but then there was an option where you could pay a little extra to ship it over here to the US.
Amazing.
Okay, I'm in. I got about 8 beers in the box and some beer nuts as well. And I was excited as heck, but it was UK craft. There was I got a box from Verdant as well, yes, which I kind of in my head seems like the UK's Treehouse.
Oh, okay.
Or something really exciting like that. Right. But point being, in the UK you have like American style craft beer, which is really popular, and there's like a whole different scene which we don't have over here in the US, where you're drinking like cask and keg is a differentiator, and over here everything's keg you might get
Sure.
a can or a bottle if you go to the right bar.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, definitely a totally different brewing and beer tradition in the UK than in the US. A lot of it coming from real ales or cask conditioned ales, and yeah, correct. That's, I mean, it's a different, it's a whole tier of beer drinking that the US totally missed. We kind of have like kind of domestic beer, as it's commonly referred to, or macro lagers, or whatever you want to say about it, and then craft, and they kind of live in their worlds, and oftentimes there's not much crossover there. Where in the UK you may have, right, kind of like you'll have your cask conditioned ales and your craft beer, and sometimes those are on cask, sometimes they're kegged, and then you also have kind of more, I guess, imports, things like Stella Artois, beers that are available all over the place. But it's that whole different level. Almost maybe it lives in the middle, where you could go to a pub and have a cask of Boddington's, like we've done on the show here, and then next to it on cask could be something from Beavertown or from Siren or from for Two Monks or whoever. But then also maybe that beer is available on draft, and where Boddington's will just be on the hand pump or on nitro. So kind of comes down to serving size, and really what that is an extension of is the pub experience, and that really, much like the early pub culture and bar culture in the U.S., pub was not just a bar. It was like the meeting place of the town. Horses were sold at the pub, and deals were made, and jobs were earned, and markets kind of sprung up there. And again, so the whole experience, that whole pub experience, we don't have it as much anymore in the U.S., but it's very much tied to cask and real ales, and in the U.K., and it's really cool. It's something I've always loved and definitely romanticized about, of being kind of tucked somewhere in a large, like a leatherback chair with a pint of some cask something and a Sherlock Holmes book near a fire, eating some fish and chips. I don't know, like something like that. I can see myself doing that for many, 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 many years, and being very happy about it.
We'll get to before we end the show. There's kind of a quick this or that Harry and I'll run through. Basically, UK or America in terms of vernacular. I didn't explain that very well, but
we'll see soon.
One thing I wanted to touch on. Yeah. So this beer that we're drinking, if you're in the U.S., you don't have a great chance of getting anything from Siren. If you're in the U.K., bravo! Yeah. I'm jealous if this is your regular kind of go-to. But this beer was what I think is kind of cool about this. If you check into a beer from Siren, it'll level up on Untappd. You'll level up the badge for God Save the Queen.
Nice.
And right. I'm going to try, for those of you that are listening in the States, and maybe everybody is better at this than I am, but when you're talking to your friends and you say, oh yeah, the UK or England or Great Britain, but I think a lot of us don't really understand where the granular differences are, myself included. So for those of you that are listening, and for you, football means soccer, what I would call soccer. Call me out on Twitter if I'm wrong. You can hit me and Harrison. Go to Twitter, look for @thatbeerpodcast. But God Save the Queen. So you'll level this badge up every time you check into an English beer. But then there's also like the Luck of the Irish badge, or Wailing for Wales, or the Highlander badge, and you'll level those up for checking into a beer. Let's say you check into a Scottish beer, that'll level up your Highlander badge, but also God Save the Queen. And so that works, as I understand, much like the UK itself. The United Kingdom, it represents any country in this union of 4 separate countries. As I understand, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and a handful of islands as well. So for reference, as I understand, England is a nation within the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Britain is a region consisting of England and Wales and maybe Northern Ireland. They call that Great Britain to help differentiate from an area in France. And I'm not a historian or geographically inclined enough to go into that. So basically, I think it's important that I do a little bit of more research on what's an English beer versus a UK beer. Why are they different? And you can really, I think, get lost. It's complicated, right? It's not as complicated as running for the mayor of London,
Right.
But definitely hit me up on Twitter. Let me know what I messed up. I welcome your education. Harrison, anything off the top of your head did I get right or wrong?
I don't want to start a more complicated, just a longer thread of angry things happening. So let's just leave that there and say that that's hopefully correct. And we're trying our best over here. Google can send you many different places for many different answers, depending on how loud you yell at Alexa or whatever. But for the Untapped fan, the London itself, so 9 million people live in London today, I believe. So obviously pretty big city, and it was the number one city in the world for Untapped check-ins last year with, I think, it was either a little more than 2 million or almost 3 million, I forget, but it was millions of check-ins. They were the number one city by a long shot. So yeah, again, lots of great beer like this and more being consumed there by all those Londoners.
The beer mile in London, like that probably attributed half of those check-ins. That should be your dream destination if you're visiting the UK and you want to drink beer.
Yeah, it's mine. I mean, we'll get there someday. I can't wait to disappear behind some tartan blankets, talking about Thin Lizzy to some old guy who I'll make listen as I imbibe many pints of whatever's there. I'm good. It'll be in the fish and chips. So anyway, I'm dreaming. But I think we're going to jump right in right now and kind of talk about some of those things, and chips may come up in a moment. But yeah, as John mentioned before, kind of what are some, I guess, what's the best way to describe this? Kind of when you're talking about, well, I'll use an example, an easy one. When you're talking about a flat in the UK, well, if you were in the US, you'd be talking about what, John?
I guess you'd be talking about a type of shoe.
You wouldn't. Well, you could be, but in this case, I mean,
an apartment.
Exactly, an apartment. Yep. There you go. So we're gonna do whatever this is called. I don't this or that kind of
some differences. Hopefully, some funny differences in us and the people who drink beer just like us, but are on the other side of the ocean.
Yep, exactly. And this was, I first came across this stuff probably as a 13-year-old kid, when the Harry Potter books were really big and huge and exciting, before they were even movies. I kind of read them as they came out. Early mover on that. But my dad did a lot of business in London, and he would bring back the British versions of the books, which had if you didn't know this, they have all, right, like they do say, pitch instead of field and lift instead of elevator. And as a 13-year-old reading this book, it was almost like another language where I was like, he keeps talking about playing, Quidditch on this pitch, and that's what the baseball guys throw the ball, and what's happening. So that was a fun kind of opening up of, I was told I spoke English my whole life, but I don't think I really have. That seems to be a slightly different language. So we're gonna have some fun with this right now and see see what I remember and how embarrassed we can make each other. So let's do this. What's first? This is okay. So let me ask you the first one, John. And we'll keep it simple. Chips or French fries? Where do you land on this? Chips or French fries? What are you eating?
They're both the same thing, which still amazes me to this day. Although I love that what I call chips, they call crisps.
Yes.
And that really makes sounds great.
Exactly.
So I'm more accustomed to ordering French fries, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or if you go to a fancy place, you order pommes frites. But chips, that's what I'd prefer I was able to call them. It would make me feel like I wasn't just eating a handful of French fries. Yeah. But no, I'm more comfortable with French fries. I wish I were better.
Yeah, we can't have everything. Where'd we put it? What's next?
Here's one for you, Harrison. Right. And this is incredibly Harrison. a sweater or a jumper?
Well, I mean, so I'm wearing my old man sweater, as my wife calls it right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, big sweater guy, even bigger cardigan guy though. So immediately I lean that way. Jumper is fun, sounds more exciting than any sweater is. More movement. Maybe if it was like a stuck around the necker or something, like a awkward to get in, or if there were other ways to remind yourself every time you put on a sweater, kind of how much what you put on since the last time you wore it.
Wearing my third layer shirt, keep warmer.
Right, exactly. Yeah. In the name. But for me, I'll just keep. I mean, again, jumper's fun. It's a great Third Eye Blind song, but I'm gonna stick with sweater for now. Even though every time I see jumper, I'm taken back once again to my formative years and listening to CDs on my Walkman or whatever, disc player, whatever that was called. Doesn't matter. Not important. Discman. That's it. Discman. Good. Don't even remember.
No one has any that work anymore.
No, or if you do, they're worth nothing, or $800, depending on how good you are at eBay. All right, John, let's do this. This is fun. I talked about this a little bit already. All right, a pub or a bar? Where are you going? Where do you see yourself? What's happening? This one may be a little bit more different than the others. There may be, at least in my mind, when I say pub and I say bar, I'm seeing two different things. But what about you?
Very much the same. It's, I think when I don't think about it, a pub is a bar and a bar is a pub, and they're both basically restaurants. Like if I don't give it much thought, it could be almost anything.
Right.
But now I'm old, and if you ask me, hey, John, do you want to get together after work and go to the bar? My answer, without thinking about it, is no. I'm good. I'm old. Yep. I have to get up sometime tomorrow. Yep. It'll take me a week to recover from visiting the bar. But a pub, it makes me feel, and this is probably vernacular more than anything, but going to a pub feels more like something to do. I'm going to expect that I can grab a bite to eat. It's not going to be so loud that I can have a conversation. Yes. And I might not even have to Uber home.
Right.
So a pub sounds like a much better night for me. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would go the opposite way.
Yeah. You can sleep above the pub next to the mayor's room or whatever. Something cool. I don't know. I'm with you there.
This sounds magical.
Sounds something.
What about I think we say this a little bit here in the States, but Harrison, right around like let's say 12:15, 12:30 in the afternoon, or half 12. I think if I said that correctly.
Right.
Are you feeling hungry or are you feeling peckish?
So I mean, in my heart of hearts, I know I'm feeling hungry, but in the back of my head, I'm wanting to feel peckish because in my mind, peckish is a peck, a little. I'll just have a bite of something. Hungry is give me a ham sandwich with extra ham and some ham on the side. And peckish is I'll just have a biscuit. Thanks. I'll see you later. And that's what I wish I was able to do and not just triple down on the ham. Although we're entering mass gaining season, so it's time to mass up. But yeah, I think actually on this one, I'll lean peckish, especially middle of the day. Middle of the day in the perfect world, right, is like a biscuit and some tea. I might be getting ahead of us here. Or, yeah, like some nuts. I love almonds. Peckish. I think I lean more towards the snacking throughout the day than just kind of loading on everything in a huge garbage plate.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, that's for
or
a different
bin plate.
Right, there we go. All right. So I mentioned this a moment ago, but I'm going to ask you, John, if I'm offering you a biscuit or a cookie, what's your answer? What's happening?
Now we're getting into some pretty deep roots here, and I think every year around Christmas time I have this, I'm going to say, conversation with my wife because she likes her cookies to bake. Like a saltine is my wife's perfect cookie.
Oh man! All right.
For me, I want nary cooked chocolate chip dough. I don't even care if it's still cold in the middle.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me, these are very different things. Yes. A biscuit is buttery, flaky. It's usually stuffed full of egg and maybe cheese if I'm lucky. A So I have this is probably the hardest one for me.
Agreed.
To see, like, they're two very different things. And it's just because of where I was raised and how I grew up, but I'm going to say I want them both, but I have a hard time identifying a cookie as a biscuit or vice versa. It's as different as hot dog and hamburger to me.
Agreed.
If I couldn't sound more American. What about you, Harrison?
Yeah, I'll chime in on this one. For this one, yeah, right. A biscuit for me is something I have Saturday morning next to some flapjacks, and it's got some butter on it, and it's, just more bread to start the day. It's whereas a cookie is chocolate chipped and gooey, and I'll have one and then grab 5 more and eat them as fast as possible. So it might be trick my brain body into thinking I only had one of them, so that the results don't accumulate on my waistline.
Tricking your brain to eat more.
Right, exactly.
That's a different podcast.
Try and fake it out a little bit. I distract it with a bird or a commercial, then I huff some more cookies. Yeah, so likewise, very different to me. This is a tough one for me to imagine a biscuit as anything other than something for a weekend morning. Again, that's just me. I guess we are all, there's some things are stronger than, I don't know, words or whatever. And those are memories. I don't know what I'm saying. Doesn't matter. Not important.
You started in a direction that almost became an Instagram quote.
If I owned it more, it probably could have been. If I just acted like I knew what I was talking about.
Plenty more subtle differences. Queuing up versus lining. The boot versus your trunk. And all of it's just kind of meant in jest. Honestly, whenever I say the English version of the word, I feel more eloquent, which is we're going on holiday. It sounds brilliant as opposed to vacation.
Right, exactly. Right, vacation is I'm angry, I'm in traffic somewhere, I've forgotten something at home, it's everybody else's fault, and I can't wait for it to be over because this bed is horrible that I'm forced to sleep in. Holiday is magical. I'm whisked away to something new. There's snow, but it's somehow not cold. It's just perfect. Everything's perfect. And I'm in a small kind of inn somewhere in a mountain and just eating Belgian waffles. I have a problem with bread.
Skiing.
Right, exactly. But so there's two different experiences there for sure. Yeah, holiday sounds like what I wish I could get, but I know I've got a lifetime of vacations ahead of me.
There's certainly plenty of little, idiosyncrasies probably isn't the right word, but it sounded cool to say. Plenty of little differences we might have missed out on. But for those of you listening here in the States, if there's anything you should walk away learning, it's that we're more alike than different than the people across the pond, and they make really good beer. If you're listening overseas in the United Kingdom, sorry.
I hope you had a couple laughs.
Sorry, I was probably wrong on some things. But speaking of which, Untappd's European Virtual Beer Festival, we're partnering with an online shipper out of London, the Beer Merchants. The dates have been moved back a little bit, so it'll be November 28th or 28 November. Anybody that's already elected and bought tickets, no problem. The event's just going to get moved back a little bit later in the day. If you're unsure or haven't heard of it yet, go to Untappd and check out the European Festival link. There's some pretty cool stuff. You can be a fan of hops, or you can kind of get your head into just about everything, drink some beer along with Greg and the gang online. Anything else coming up, Harrison?
That's right. So we have our last Drinking Socially live tomorrow. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, the day this podcast comes out, we've been doing for the past, now it'll be the third week, live Drinking Socially every Thursday on Untappd's social media. So it's been a lot of fun so far. I've had some fast food. We've talked about American football. And we're going to finish it up.
Played.
Right, I caught myself there. With Alicia and Mel, the co-founders of Work for Your Beer. So John and I are going to, I think, in reality, lay on some yoga mats and then drink some beer. But I think it's being perhaps broadcast as us working out and then beer. We're going to see what happens tomorrow. And if this has already happened and it's not tomorrow, it's still on untappd.com/TV. Everything that we do is there, so you can check it out and see if we survived, if I did more than just kind of lay there hoping that no one noticed me. I don't know.
That'd be a great time to just if I haven't already offended you, hit the 9-1 on your phone and watch along and get ready for
get
me.
ready to save
Maybe the
John's
first time
life.
I've worked out since most of you were kids.
That's great.
2 beers in 1 podcast, Harrison, which we always do, but I guess 2 different beers.
True.
Siren Craft Brewery made hops new for me. Again, these were delicious, and I'm jealous of the one that you got to drink, Harrison. We'll have to look for a beer made with Talus hops in
Keep
the
an eye out,
future.
guys. Yeah, I mean, it was your final thought on it. It's great. I mean, it's like a smoother Cascade. That's what I'll say as a takeaway. So check it out.
And cookies and biscuits.
Yeah.
Both of them are great.
Exactly. It's a win-win there. If you have a cookie in one hand and a biscuit in the other, you've won the day. And tune in next week, guys. We're drinking 2 more beers. So 2 different beers. We're doubling, troubling back-to-back here. From a little brewery you may have heard of that starts with tree and ends with house.
Show notes for this episode and all of our episodes are available at podcasts.untapped.com. If you have any questions or feedback about this episode, connect with Untapped on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or join our Facebook group, or send Harrison and I a direct message on Twitter at That Beer Podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, we'll see you guys next week.
Perfect timing. I'm almost out of
As
this
am
one.
I. Cheers.
Cheers.